Start again. I'm Beth Cosentino. I'm the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, SEPAC SOMA president. And we have been doing presentations this year virtually and been recording them. So our recordings have been able to be shared out through our SEPAC SOMA YouTube channel. All of our information about our organization can be found on our website, sepacsoma.org. And we also have in-person cup chats on a regular basis. Usually they happen about monthly. All of that, again, all of that information can be found on our website, and you can sign up if you're not already to our subscriber list. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get started with the presentation. Hold on 1 minute. Oh, and let me mention too that tonight I'm joined by Kelly Mortimer, our communications officer. Nicole Josie is our VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Lindsay Stone is our VP of Community Outreach. Will Meyer is our VP of Policy Initiatives. He's here. And I see Christy Mendoza is our Maplewood Middle School, one of our liaison. We have two at Maplewood Middle. And I'm looking. Oh, and I see Malia Herman is our ex officio. She was the CPAC president last year. And I believe Ann Lieb will be stopping in a little later. She's our VP of Family Support. So that's the executive board. Okay, so let me share my screen and get the presentation going. 1 second, bear with me. Okay, can you see what I'm presenting? I can't see anything except my screen, so.
We can see it.
Thank you. I mean, I can't see any of you. So if you need to ask a question or get my attention, just unmute yourself and let me know. So here's our opening slide. That's also the QR code. If you would like to sign in, you can do it through there. Kelly is posting the attendance form in the chat. So tonight we are going to go over the special education law. We're going to go over PRISE, parental rights in special education. We'll talk about the individualized education program and the IEP meeting, and then we'll have time for questions and share some tips. So first of all, let's talk about the special education law. And I have 3 things up here because we're going to cover all of this now. Idea is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is a federal law, and it was created by Congress and signed into law by President Ford in 1975 under a different name. The name of it was Education for All Handicapped Children Act. And that was to support states and localities in protecting the rights of and meeting the individual needs of and improving the results for infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities and their families. The name was changed to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in 1990 when it was reauthorized. The reauthorizations have happened more times over the years as they work to improve on the law. There is extensive history behind IDA, which we will have available on our website. We'll share a bunch of different resources after this presentation is up on YouTube and ready to be shared. One I would mention about the history of IDEA is to check out, if you haven't yet, the movie Crib Camp. You can find it on YouTube or Netflix, and it's a movie that focuses on a group of young people with disabilities who became activists for the disability rights movement. And including one of their primary organizers, the legendary Judy Heumann, who recently passed away. Again, if you're not familiar with the history or Judy Heumann, you definitely should check out this movie because it would give you a lot of good information, and it's quite moving. So the stated purpose of IDEA is to ensure that all children with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special education and related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. It's also to ensure that the rights of children with disabilities and parents of such children are protected. It's to assist states, localities, educational service agencies, and federal agencies to provide for the education of all children with disabilities. And it's to assist states in the implementation of a statewide, comprehensive, coordinated, multidisciplinary, interagency system of early intervention services for infants, toddlers with disabilities, and their families. And it's to ensure that educators and parents have the necessary tools to improve educational results for children with disabilities by supporting system improvement activities, coordinated research and personnel preparation, coordinated technical assistance, dissemination and support, and technology development and media services. It's to assess and ensure the effectiveness of and efforts to educate children with disabilities. Now, that is obviously a quote, and that's from the IDEA, federal government site. And, I wanted to share all of that information because I think it's important that you all understand and we remember that this is exactly what it says. It's a special education law, and it has gravity to it. It has importance, and and I think that sometimes it's good to be reminded of how important and how fully I don't know, sorry, I'm finding lots of words, but how important and what impact it has on our children. Okay, so let's go into the New Jersey Administrative Code. It's an official publication of the state of New Jersey, and it compiles all effective rules adopted by state agencies and filed with the Office of Administrative Law. The New Jersey Administrative Code is regularly updated in a loosely format organized by state agency content. All right, so a part of the New Jersey Administrative Code is the special education law, and that is 6A:14. So when our Board of Ed or any Board of Ed in the state of New Jersey is updating policy, they are looking to the New Jersey Administrative Code. That's sort of their starting point. And next we have parental rights in special education. And the parental rights in special education is, I'm going to actually go to the next slide because we're going to talk more about that. But before I do, I want to share this much with you about it. It's the New Jersey Administrative Code for Special Education and the Federal Individuals with Disability Education Act of 2004, IDEA 2004, are laws that ensure children with disabilities a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. An important part of these laws provides parents with the right to participate in their children's education. All right, so you and representatives of your school district are team members who are responsible for developing an appropriate educational program for your child. This is coming from the Prize Handbook. This document will describe the state and federal laws affecting the provision of special education to help you understand your rights in the special education process. With this knowledge, you will be prepared to take an active role in your child's education. This document has been developed for you by the Department of Education, Office of Special Education Policy and Dispute Resolution in an effort to provide the most comprehensive and up-to-date information. The document is periodically revised to reflect changes in the law, provide additional information that would be of use to you, and to provide the information in a more clear and concise manner. This edition is that we have out right now, that they're making available to people, is from 2019. If you go on the New Jersey Department of Education website and you go to where the prize is, you'll see that there's another one coming. So they've updated it again. So we're going to keep an eye out, and I'm sure that Ms. Bedine will send out an announcement when they do have the most updated version, so that that's the one we can refer to. So procedural safeguards, the prize is basically what that is the procedural safeguard. So under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, you and your child have legal protections during the evaluation and IEP process, and these protections are called procedural safeguards. The school must provide you with a written explanation of your rights under IDEA, and this is how they do that in New Jersey. They give you a prize. Now, I've spoken to families, and sometimes they're not given the prize. It's very, very important that happens, because especially as you're just getting started, if your child is just starting with the special education process and you're just getting started with it, it's really important that you know timelines and expectations and how you can be involved and how you should be involved. And this really outlines it, and where you give consent and when you give consent and all of that. So it's very, very important that you have a copy of this or have a link to a copy of it online. So next, let's talk about the Individualized Education Program. They're covered by IDEA, the Individualized Education Program, IEPs, as we all refer to them, are covered by the Individuals with Disability Education Act, the federal law. The process for obtaining an IEP begins with an evaluation that shows the student's strengths and challenges. Families and schools use the results to create a program of services and supports tailored to meet the student's needs, the individual students. That's where the individualized comes in. And then having an IEP gives students, families, and schools legal protections too. It lets families be involved in decisions that impact their child's education. It also gives students rights when it comes to school discipline. I put understood.org because a lot of this information now is from understood.org. And if you haven't been on that site, it's a great site. It gives the information really clear and concise. So let's go talk about how to prepare for the meeting. So the first thing that will happen, especially if it's like we're coming up to annual reviews for a lot of people, so they'll send you an invitation to a meeting. A Google Calendar invite is not an invitation to a meeting. That doesn't count. And I myself had to share that with a case manager or two. So it's very important that if you've only gotten a Google Calendar invite and you haven't gotten a link to either in the mail, an invitation to a meeting, a letter, which is how they used to send it, but now they do it through the Frontline system. And then it's like a link to the document for you to sign. But before you sign it, read it through and make sure it's what is there is what you want for there to be there. So it's important to check to see that it's like I said, the Google Calendar invite is not an invitation to a meeting, and part of your right is to have an invitation, because on that invitation it'll have the purpose, such as an annual review of the IEP, which means the IEP team must meet at least annually for the purpose of assessing the student's educational progress and to review and revise the individualized education program as appropriate. It'll talk about the participants, which should include a gen ed teacher, the parents or guardians, a special education teacher or provider, a child study team member, a case manager, which is often, the child study team member. But if you have evaluations done, you'll have the people who have done the evaluations. So maybe the learning disability teacher consultant has done the educational evaluation. If you're on the first IEP or a triennial, or the school psychologist may be there. If that person's not the case manager normally for your child, that person will be there to discuss their evaluation and the reports. So maybe the physical therapist, anybody that's going to be working with your child, the behavior specialist, a social worker, a counselor, a speech and language therapist, occupational therapist, the representative from the district, which is usually the case manager. And like I said, if there are any reports, then the people who gave the evaluations will be present to go over them. So, and then in the form, in the invitation, it says you may be accompanied to this meeting by anyone of your choosing who has knowledge or special expertise about the student. I would say you can have anybody you want there, but this is what they're saying. If you are the parent, you may also bring your child to the meeting if you believe it is appropriate. Students who turn age 14 during a proposed IEP are invited to the meeting when services for transition to adult life will be discussed. You may also submit any evaluative information that will be considered by the district. So if you have outside evaluations, you can bring those or submit those. If you require an interpreter, translator, reader, or a location that is physically accessible or any other special accommodations, you must notify the district prior to the scheduled meeting in order to make the appropriate arrangements. They should ask you if you have a copy of the prize, and if it's your first meeting, then you should have already been given one. But at the end of the form, it'll ask you also if you'd like to record the meeting, and you can indicate that as well. And I would recommend that you record it. So all team members are expected to be there, and if they're not, then you must give your consent in writing to say that it is okay for them not to be. And the reports and evaluations that come that have been done must be sent 10 calendar days prior to the meeting. And some of the ways to prepare, along with like looking over the invitation and looking at the reports and evaluations. And with the reports and evaluations, if you have questions before the meeting, you don't need to wait to the meeting to ask your questions. You can proactively reach out to, say, the LDTC if you have a question about something, and just to get clarification or explanation. It's completely appropriate, and they'll still go over everything in the meeting, but if you want to reach out ahead of time, it's fine to do that too. And another way to prepare before the meeting is to look over the IEP progress reports. So we are at least on the elementary level, I should say, we're at the progress report time. So along with the progress report that you get from the classroom, you also get an IEP progress, and it happens 3 times during the year. So this is the second one. It happened back in December, end of November, December. It happens now, and then it happens at the end of the school year. And it's good to look through and see, where the progress is happening. And if you aren't sure where to find these, they are in PowerSchool. And let me see. I actually added a few fancy things here. Oh yeah, okay. So in PowerSchool, through this the South Orange Maplewood School District website, SOMSD, right? You go to their website and you go into PowerSchool, and there's this little box with the little arrow that's sticking out. You see in the middle there, and that you click on that. It's so weird because it's so small and so kind of random. And this box pops up, and then you click on special services, and this box comes up, and then you can see IEP progress report. So I just wanted to show you all, because I don't think, if you don't know, it's kind of hard to find. So the other thing to look at is, last year's IEP or the previous IEP, to see what was there, and just kind of get a sense of, looking at the progress reports will give you that information too, but just to get a sense of the history and where your child has been, and, especially like some of the present levels. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next. Next, we're going to talk about family engagement. So Involving families of students who learn and think differently is especially important because schools are required by federal law to seek input from a parent or guardian in the development of a student's individualized education program. Schools must also provide families with updates on their child's progress toward their IEP goals 3 times a year, just like I said, and more than that if there's concern. In addition to these mandates, it has been shown that meaningful interactions between teachers and families of students who learn and think differently can build trust, inform instruction, improve student outcomes. So it's, I think that I stuck this in there because it's part of idea that families are involved. And so it's important for us as parents to think about that when we go into these IEP meetings, and to remember that our voice is an equal voice in the meeting. We have more understanding and knowledge about our own child than anybody else does. And so it's important to share that. And, one of the ways is to share stories, at least one story. Share information about your child and how you know him or her, how you interact with them. And it really helps the team get a fuller picture of who your child is and how you know who your child is. And that, that speaks to them being able to understand certain aspects of your child that maybe they didn't understand in the classroom before. So always share your stories and talk about your child as you know them in these meetings. So I'm going to go on to the next for the meeting. So the meeting. So start with introductions. You might not know all the people that are working with your child. So be sure to go around. And like I said, when include yourself and share a story about, it could just be very brief about, getting to the bus or, getting to school or, certain things that your kid likes at home. So that's to start. And then the individual members, the teachers and the related service providers will go into PLAF, and that's present levels of academic and functional, I forgot the last letter. But this is the starting point for the goals. Oh, here, sorry, go. Present level of academic achievement and functional performance. All right, this is the starting point, and it's for the coming year's IEP. So, and then you'll talk about student strengths, and then you'll talk about SMART goals and how, and you can look to see whether or not they're smart or not. So we're going to go further into SMART goals now. So the SMART goal is the goal specific. SMART S is the goal specific in naming the skill or subject area and the targeted results. Details matter. Measurable. The goal is stated in a way that your child's progress can be measured. That can be done using standardized tests, curriculum-based measurements, or screening. Attainable. The goal represents progress that is realistic for your child. Results-oriented. The goal clearly lays out what your child will do to accomplish it. Time-bound. The goal includes a time frame in which your child will achieve it. And with the right supports and services, it also states when and how often progress will be measured, also from understood. So there are benchmarks, and then those fall under the goals. So you want to look at, the specificity of it. I think that's a really big part of it, where they don't want to say they're just getting better. You want to know that they're, what marks that they're going to hit so that they can work towards those. How many times? I think the time-bound one is one of the things that I see the least, to put a time frame in. So it's a good one to remember to include. So now we don't have, I'm just going to move on to questions and tips and take the screen down because it's very strange not to see anybody. So And we can talk more about what's in the IEP. I'm just gonna take away the slideshow. Okay, so, oh, that was odd to not see people. It's nice to see your faces again, or some of your faces. So the next part I want to see is, well, if we have questions, we can answer the questions, but also to talk like in terms of the things that are in the IEP, like there's transportation, there's behavioral intervention plan, there's transition planning, there are other aspects. One of the things that we forget about, kind of gloss over, are extracurricular activities. And if you have an elementary school student, you'll know, and if you were you're interested in Beyond the Bell this year Beyond the Bell actually posted or included on the form if your child has a para during the school day. And that's a huge development that they included that, because Beyond the Bell is a district program. By law, and it's part of the IEP, you can see extracurricular activities by law that they are included in the IEP. So something to keep in mind. So do we want to look at the questions in the chat?